Welcome to the Mojo Market Report. Here's your hosts, Dave Sturchio and Chris Gueci.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Mojo Market Report right here on a Tuesday. It is Dave Sturchio, Chris Gueci, A5. Anthony behind the glass here at Chop Studios. Hope you guys enjoyed Monday Night Football. I know I did on a personal level when it comes to, we'll talk about the top movers in a couple minutes. One of those top movers definitely propelled me right into the fantasy football championship. So I know a lot of people are focused and zeroed in on that, but guess what? If you're eliminated, right, there's other ways to make money. And guess what? Mojo Market could be the way to do it, right? So pay attention. Get your notebooks out. All right, here we go. So yesterday, before we got into the Monday Night Football stuff, there was another coaching. I mean, I thought Black Monday was the day after the season ended, but Black Monday came early for Broncos head coach, or former head coach now, Nathaniel Hackett. Got the hack, got the axe. Nate Hackett, your boy from Green Bay.
It's not my boy.
Fired, like Vince style.
It's the first time in 40 years that, well, it's the second coach in 40 years that was fired before completing one season.
That's it? Are you sure? I saw a list of guys that were fired. Oh, that was after one season? So this is like during.
Before the season.
So him and
before completing
So is it him and Urban?
Urban. 2 years in a row.
Oh my God.
Never been done before in 2 years in a row.
Do you know how much money the NFL has lost? I mean, organizations have lost and fired head coaches.
I feel like the
it's like
GM,
almost close to $1 billion.
Whoever's in charge of the hiring in those situations needs to also stand in the mirror and say, you're fired. Because fire yourself.
Yeah, you know what?
You're the one that hired Hackett.
GMs have to actually hold themselves accountable, 100%.
How about this? Did Hackett make the trade?
To get Russ?
Because that might be the worst trade in history.
Are we out on Russ? Are we out on Russ?
Are you?
He looks awful. I understand. He looks awful.
I think Sierra's out on Russ at this point. She's benching Russ.
We're going to have a second divorce starting next year. But no, for real, like this is, I don't know, like, is it coaching? I mean, I know Russ Wilson's a cringeworthy dude.
Let's just sit here and look at Russ's numbers this year. You could say the coaching all you want.
Yeah,
it's awful.
It's bad.
We look dating back to last year when, I mean, I guess Russ played decent in the first half before he got hurt, but not really. I'm saying Russ is done. And really, when we're talking about the trade itself, whether Russ plays well or not eventually, right now it's looking really bad, and it's 2 1s, 2 2s, 240
kind of reminds me of one Dallas Cowboys Herschel Walker trade back in 91.
Not only did they give up picks, they gave up players, like players that are starting.
Noah Fant, yeah.
It's a bad trade. Stop.
Okay.
Awful trade. Might be one of the worst trades ever.
Maybe the GM needs a whole. That's not Elway, right? Elway's not the GM. He's just associated with the team and drinks. That's really it.
I feel like Elway definitely has some of the say, but I don't know. I don't know what's going on with the Denver Broncos front office.
Speaking of front offices, another move was made.
They don't even know what's going on.
Corresponding move, I guess, within the AFC still. Mike White will be starting again. He's cleared. Very interesting turn of events yesterday when he got cleared. You also just informed me, and I don't know why I didn't know this, but Zach Wilson's not even going to dress. It is officially donezo.
Joe Flacco is the backup now.
God.
I guess we could finally put to bed that conspiracy theory that Dave conjured up a couple weeks back.
What was my conspiracy theory?
That they were faking Mike White's injury so they could start Zach Wilson
until they saw Zach Wilson again.
Yeah, because they had no idea.
And they're like, you know what? Never mind. This whole thing put it all to bed.
You know, we're gonna you know that risky move we just made the other like 2 weeks ago, risking our entire careers. Yeah, that backfired. So we're just going to act like it didn't happen.
I don't want to talk too much about this, but there is more news coming out of the AFC East that Tua Tagovailoa has his third concussion of the season. The first one didn't go diagnosed, but everybody kind of knew it was. Then it was another concussion. He was knocked out cold. Now, yesterday, he's saying that, the head coach came out and said, like, we can't, it's too early to announce a starter. He's got concussion syndromes. Yeah,
symptoms.
What did I say?
Syndromes?
Maybe I have concussion symptoms. That's not far and out of the reach of the realm of possibilities. But what I will say is this. They interviewed him. They interviewed Tua about the picks that he threw against Green Bay. And he's in the second one. He's like, yeah, that second one, I don't really remember. I think I maybe called the wrong play. Like, he was just like, no recollection of
I watched that interview and I was like, I'm going to give him a pass because he's probably just trying to take the blame. That's the way I looked at it. Where I was like, okay, either he has no idea what's going on up there, or, and this is where I kind of lean towards it because he answered all the other questions pretty eloquently and articulate.
Right.
The thing that I saw there was that Tua was taking blame, and it maybe was clearly someone else's fault. So he didn't know what to say and how to take the blame, so he made it seem like he just made the wrong call.
I was following.
He just had no clue.
I was following this vividly. Dr. Jesse of Mojo.
I thought you were talking about Dr. Dave.
No. Dr. Dave doesn't know anything.
Fox
Dr. Jesse's an actual doctor with Mojo, and he always gives us the cold hard facts. Yesterday, he put out there on Twitter that he thinks Tua should be suspended indefinitely for not telling the coaching staff that things were going on again.
Well, I have a hard time with that. I'm
look, he's gotten.
I'm pushing back.
He got flamed a little bit,
I'm pushing back there, and I'm not going to flame him because I understand the sentiment that he's trying to make here. But how could you can't expect a concussed player?
Hey, coach, I'm concussed.
Like that's
Take me out of the game.
That's kind of the underlying point of being concussed is like you don't really know what's going on. So
okay, but fair. I mean, suspended.
Hey, I got to gather myself here and then come up with the wherewithal. Like your mindset in that moment is like I need to play. I need to get ready. I need to. Show that I'm good.
To his point, doctor's just looking out for the player safety.
Of course.
And did you see that wallop last night by the safety? What's his name? Chargers. I don't know why I'm drawing a blank right now.
I watched my phone. I watched this game on my.
You didn't see the hit?
No.
Oh my god. Oh, why can't I think of his name? Why the Derwin James? He was ejected.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
I read that on
first of all
Bleacher Report.
If this was,
I didn't see it.
If this was, I don't want to like get off my lawn, but like. Back in the day, that was just a good, hard, cold football hit. But he knocked him into the next world, and he did lower his helmet. And, I know player safety, that's the way it is. But boy, oh boy, he knocked himself out of the game anyway, I think. I think they were going to knock him out with a concussion. Also with the receiver,
Look,
too.
I don't,
shout out to...
I don't have issues with the hard hits. I have issues with, like, clearly egregious... blatant hard hits where they're looking like they're targeting and things like that. But look, it's a bang bang thing.
In fast motion, it looked like Derwin James was going to make a play. But then when you slow it down and you're like, this guy looks like he's about to murder this dude.
Well,
you know what I mean? Like,
well, it is football.
It is football after all. And
it's
I
like
guess
the whole intent is to be violent at the point of impact, and then all of a sudden.
Not anymore.
Oh, no, it is 100%. Bro,
I don't know how these kids are taught nowadays. But
just to give you an example about the violence at the point of impact, we just talked about Mike White. That hit was brutal. It's just about the placement of it. That was a clean hit. One's not. It all depends where you deliver the blow.
Yeah.
Obviously. So we can move on past the hard hit. Derwin James is a stud.
Derwin James, his interception in the first half was out of control good. Speaking of this game, it's time to get into the top movers from this game from yesterday. And, of course, the Chargers, with their win, clinch a playoff spot. They'll be in the playoffs now. So all your Chargers that you're invested in get some extra time into January. We start with this guy right here who propelled me right into a fantasy championship. Austin Ekeler had himself a night last night. 18 carries, 67 yards, 2 touchdowns. 4 catches, 12 yards. Couldn't really get anything going in the screen game. But I will say this.
Bum.
Now, what?
Bum.
Yeah, bum.
I'm mad about Ekler. Those last little garbage points sent me home. So
Sent
while
you packing.
and the ones that you didn't need, by the way, I know the situation.
I won by
DSU.
20.
Yeah, you won by 20.
So I did not
congrats.
need them,
I'm glad Dave got his second pilot on touchdown with Austin Eckler's. Honestly, let's be realistic here. I know I'm being bitter.
You are.
But did Austin Ekeler really have himself a day? It was 17 for 67.
Anytime you score 2 touchdowns in the NFL, I think it's a day.
That sounds like a Zeke day. Where it's like
it does sound like a Zeke day.
Pollard runs to the one, and then Zeke punches it in.
This dude's earning
Austin Eckler's obviously a touchdown machine.
He is the guy.
Bitter.
He literally leads the league outside of, I believe, Jamal Williams, who has a million. This guy is a touchdown machine, and this guy should be in your portfolio. I understand. Look at those that price is not that expensive for a guy that's going to see the field in red zone opportunities. I will say this: watching the beginning of this game, I was starting to lose my mind a little bit because in the first 2 series, the Chargers ran 6 plays. He was on the field for 2 of them.
Yeah,
so I'm like, what? What are we doing here?
He basically splits carries.
That's ridiculous.
But when they get down
so
low,
much better than Josh Kelly.
I mean,
so much better.
Realistically speaking, between the tackles, he's not.
Well, he's not built like that.
What's his average yards per carry? Not much.
No,
so I understand.
But the Chargers don't run the ball.
Well, I understand why they don't use him in between the 20s as often as they would like to, because he's better out of the backfield catching the ball, and they use him fine. I don't really have any complaints if I'm an Austin Ekeler owner or if I'm invested in him. But I will say this, Austin Ekeler, the expectations are very high for him. So if you are going to invest in a player, in an Ekeler, I would definitely anticipate using the multipliers here because you get a guy that has the game that he had yesterday. I know he didn't really have his reception totals that we're typically used to, but he did score twice, right? So you have 2 touchdowns in the game, and he only went up a little less than 1%. Because he's established a little bit, so I would definitely encourage using the multipliers with Ekeler
and any real superstar to be honest.
And really,
with you.
all of these guys at the top of the list. But
speaking of non-superstars, the Colts made a interesting move going into this game, and they decided to start Super Bowl champion winning. He wasn't MVP, was he? I don't even know. It doesn't matter. It's Nick Foles, and Nick Foles is bad at football. This came from above, I guess. Hersey. Saturday, I don't know, man. It just seems to me. Look, your season is lost, right? We all noticed this. Matt Ryan
just gave like the second half comeback. You gotta move on.
Yeah, but here's the thing, bro. 15 weeks, the guy didn't dress. You know, so why now is like, oh, it's the Nick Foles experiment? Like, no, like Sam Ellinger's your project, isn't he?
What pick do they got?
Who knows? But I'm just saying, like, yeah, obviously they're going to be in the conversation for a quarterback. The quarterback of the Colts of 2023 is not on this roster right now. It's just not. You got Foles, you got Ryan, and you got Ellinger. None of those guys. I don't know. But you won't know what you have in Ellinger unless you play the kid.
Well, I mean, they've played him. And
not enough.
Let's be realistic about the Colts situation here. It's a completely botched, lost season. They had Jonathan Taylor. Now he's out. They are playing for nothing. I see no reason why. I mean, you want to just leave Matt Ryan out there? Fine, you can make that case. But
think about it. Think about legacy. I mean, I know it doesn't matter to a lot of outsiders, but think about it. Like you're Matt Ryan, you get dealt over there. You think that this season's going to be like, wow, offensive line is built. Wow, running game is incredible. Wow, you think some young receivers out there, and it just doesn't go. It doesn't go as planned.
It is not up to the Colts to preserve Matt Ryan's legacy. It's not. He's not a career Colt. He's a Falcon.
I understand that.
And then he goes there and he sucks. It's not like he elevated the team.
Yeah, well, think about what happened around him. You know what I mean? Like the offensive line didn't live up to the billing.
Look, if I'm the Colts, I'm more embarrassed about the fact that we hired Jeff Saturday. Everything thereafter.
You say, I know you say hire Jeff Saturday, but
when you,
I understand he's getting paid as a head coach, sure, but you inserted Jeff Saturday into a bad situation.
Okay,
and a guy with no experience, so. Give it to anybody else on that team.
So
like, let's just say, I think Reggie Wayne is one of the wide receiver coaches, right? He's beloved within the Colts community.
Played quarterback.
Huh?
Saying he should have played quarterback?
No, I'm saying he should have coached. Anybody should play quarterback.
I mean, I'd rather have the center I'd rather have a center than a wide receiver.
Whatever the case may be.
Coaching my team.
He was inserted. They made the move back to, as soon as Saturday got the job, they moved the move back to Matt Ryan because Frank Reich had benched him, right? And then Saturday was like, no. This is our guy. Let's go, right? And then you do it again. You did it to yourself.
I mean, look, I
put
can't,
Foles in there
I don't
for
even
what?
think it's worth even spending another split second talking about the Colts situation.
Moving
it's
on.
a mess. It's a mess, all right? Do I want to blame somebody for starting Nick Foles? I mean, give the guy an opportunity. Why not? What the hell else you got to lose? You think he's worse or better? He played no worse or no better than any other Colts quarterback.
But if you're the Colts organization and you are thinking about next year already, which you are, because now you're 4-10-1, right? But going into this game, you were 4-9-1 with no shot at the playoffs. The season's over. I look at the front office and I have to say, look, Jeff. Here's the deal. If it ain't Matt Ryan, we got to find out what we got in Sam, man. Give him the last 2 weeks.
What if
you don't bring in a journeyman like Nick Foles to screw it all up?
There's a couple things here. Not issue, but I get what you're saying. One, I understand. Two, they definitely know what they have in Sam Ellinger already. He's been there for a decent amount of time.
You think that's enough of a sample size to figure out to make a move to draft somebody next year?
You don't always need to see somebody in real game situations to know that they're not capable of starting in this league, right? You have these guys in practice. You've been assessing the talent for a while. But then he's had opportunities against bad defenses this year, and he fell flat. I know the Colts aren't a good team, but they have some decent parts around them, and there has been points this season where their offense clicked a little bit. You think first half against the Vikings, et cetera. But no, I think Sam Ellinger, especially with the fact that we know that the quarterback of this team isn't on the roster. You just said it.
Yeah, I know that.
They know that. How about this? The head coach of this team is also not on this roster. So really finding out what? What are we finding out? We're getting our teeth kicked in, night out, week in, week out, with a coach that's not going to be here, quarterbacks that aren't going to be here.
All right, so you're just giving the pass because the season's just a loss.
And here we are.
Talking about Nick Foles. Sam Ellinger's up, by the way, in case you want to go invest. He might spike again. He might get the start next week.
Nick Foles had his last job opportunity in the NFL. He might get one more
start.
start.
I'm going to say right now, this is not a hot take. Nick Foles has never been a good quarterback. He's not been an elite quarterback. The guy went on the luckiest run in the history of mankind.
It's not lucky.
All
He played
home
well,
games.
stop.
Get out of here
All
with that
home
Philly.
games?
Philadelphia.
Yeah, they didn't. They were. No. You're wrong. They went all the road games.
All road games. He's the luckiest quarterback in the world. Are you sure?
Yes, 100%. They had the Wolf mat, the road. Trust me, it was Dave.
With the underdogs. Yeah, I remember that. But I remember Carson Wentz having an MVP type season. You're telling me they didn't get a home
we're
game?
The underdogs, but
they definitely had a home game.
We're the underdogs, but we're favored at home.
Damn it. No, this is Eagles Super Bowl run. Wait, that's the preseason. All right. You want to give me my flowers now or no?
No.
Well, you should, because they had all home games.
They had all home games?
Against Atlanta, home against Minnesota, and then they beat the Patriots.
Dave gets his flowers. Nick Foles, I guess, does suck.
All of them. Nick Foles, luckiest quarterback in the world.
I went to fix my hat, and it's on backwards.
There you go. Well, that's the kind of morning we're having here at Mojo. Anyway, let's move on to another top mover. In a winning thing, right? They won a game, so that's good. They won a game. I know. We're all just like, how's the clock? They win a game last night, and at the Chargers. One guy who didn't find himself involved at all and was dressed and did play is our beloved single-digit Gerald Everett. What happened here? Like, I understand, like, we're talking about individual players when it comes to the Mojo Market. And yeah, it's a feel-good thing that they won the game. But now, all of a sudden, you got Keenan Allen and Mike Williams back, which I think is a big, big thing. But to not have a target is very alarming, no? I mean, Josh Palmer's getting targets at the wide receiver. Palmery or whatever his name is, outside of the...
Palmer?
No, I know Palmer. It was somebody else. Oh, yeah. Donald Parham Jr. even got a target. 2 targets. So it's like all of a sudden, single-digit Gerald Everett is just not the guy. Are you worried about this going forward?
I mean, his usage is, I wouldn't say it's gone down. I mean, his targets have been fairly consistent all season long. So I don't think it's a thing where we're going to expect Gerald Everett to not get anybody look his way anymore going forward. I mean, it's not a good thing. Their receivers are back healthy now, so this is really the first time that they've had a full complement of everybody healthy. We saw Keenan Allen get like 10-plus targets in the first half, and that was working, so there was really no reason to go to the safety valve in Gerald Everett. And typically what you see out of tight ends is they don't get much usage in between the 20s, and then you get down to the red zone, and it's tight end. But guess what we have on this team? It's Austin Ekeler, who we just talked about. Every time they get close, it's Austin Ekeler's show. So I'm not going to say Gerald Everett is like done in his career, but with all the weapons surrounding him, it's going to be hard for him to get consistent targets now that they're all fully healthy.
Yeah,
so
that's true.
I'm going to fade him a little bit. I would say you could go short on Gerald Everett at this point because he's going to have to really – you might have games where he pops a little bit, and it looks like they're a playoff team now, right? So
they just clinched
I
last
guess
night,
you could look forward to him getting a couple opportunities in the postseason, and I want to know how the Mojo Market reacts to postseason play, which is we have not seen that yet. So I'm curious to see a guy like Everett might be a decent play depending on who their matchup is.
He might pull like a Gabe Davis, score 3 times or something like that in the first game.
But still, I'm leaning more towards the Mike Williams and the Keenan Allens in that regard.
Speaking of Mike Williams, Keenan Allen, there's some pass catchers coming up on free agency, folks. As the season moves on, I had to switch this today. I switched it over to pass catchers. It was wide receivers, but there are some tight ends out there that need some love, and I think you can lump them all together because.
And conversely, there's like the receiver class is awful.
Yeah, it's a little weak. So we start with one of the worst ones. No, I'm kidding. Alan Lazard is a free agent next year. $8.55. He's the 63rd ranked receiver on the Mojo Market. His future value is $4.32. He's banking around 75 cents a year. I'll ask you, Chris. You watch this team thoroughly throughout. You have Romeo Doubs. You have Christian Watson. You have Randall Cobb might come back for a year. Is Alan Lazard out the door next year? Is he a Packer?
I hope Alan Lazard's not out the door next year.
What's the price tag on him though?
I don't think it's going to be too high because we saw him this year. He is who he is. You know, he had a chance to elevate his numbers, and he did so in terms of he's getting a little bit more targets. But you understand that's going to take place when you have the 190 targets Devontae got last year, up for grabs in Green Bay. But he's got a couple games left here, and he didn't really do much to elevate. He's got his highest catch total, so he set career marks across the board in terms of yards and receptions.
As expected, though.
As expected, but we don't see an elevation in the yards per target, yards per catch, things like that. But what Lazard does really well, unfortunately, these things don't lend to the Mojo Market, and he's a great run blocker. What he does when he's not getting the ball is what I think Green Bay likes. They're a run-first team, At least they've been the last 2 seasons more so. And what he does in the run game, that's what I like about Lazard. There's even a highlight this week where he laid 3 guys out on one hit. It's like Lazard, and he's counting 1, 2, 3. Usually it's a receiver that's like triple covered and he's pointing to guys that he mossed. But Lazard, he's a blue collar guy and he's laying people out.
I like it.
But as I said, not the Mojo Market. I'm not investing in Lazard. I think he does stick around in Green Bay. The story is real good, how he worked his way onto the roster. I think they owe him that contract. And it's not going to be too expensive, so he'll probably get it. And it's a good spot to be in as you have Watson and Romeo Doubs now kind of taken over as hopefully the 1 and 2 with the athleticism and things like that, but a very big slot guy in Lazard that's able to block. I like that. So I think he sticks around, but I'm not investing in him, no.
All right. Let's go to a playoff team, right? The Kansas City Chiefs. Juju Smith-Schuster is a free agent to be next year. Clearly, we know what they have in Mecole Hardman. We know what they have on the outside with like an MVS. We're talking about Scantling. You got Kelsey, who just eats up everything. Is Juju almost like a requirement for the Chiefs to retain? Because like he comes over here, he plays all right. His stats for the year, 74 catches, 877 yards. He's seen pay dirt 3 times. I think personally, they built a little something between him and Mahomes. I think you continue to build this and you get this guy back. I know they traded for Kadarius Toney. Like they have some skilled position players to
I don't
deal
know.
with.
Juju put himself in a spot where he's playing himself into what I think he deserves, a little bit of money from Kansas City. But when I'm looking at the way their roster is set up, I don't know that they're going to be able to give $15 million multi-year deal to a guy where pretty much it seems like anybody they insert into that situation, he's going to play well. And let's not forget, they drafted Sky Moore. They did trade for Kadarius Toney. So those guys are probably I know Sky Moore is, and Kadarius Toney contracted up for a little bit. I think they get really good production out of Sky Moore in year 2, Kadarius Toney year 3 with another year in the system. I think Juju's out. And I know I say this because looking at the rest of the free agent class, it's very weak. Odell is probably the prize piece. And honestly, Odell not in the playoff run, I think he's going to find it a little harder than people think to find a home or to get the amount that he was, because there's it's like the draft, all these things that you could go and you could go address the receiver position with. The reason why I think he leaves also is because I said the free agent class, all these guys that were drafted, Hollywood Brown, Debo, A.J. Brown, DK, Deontay Johnson, those are the guys that would be the free agent class. They all got locked up. If you're a good receiver in the NFL, you don't have to wait for that second deal.
You do not.
It's crazy. That wasn't really the best receiver class, so Juju will probably find himself getting paid.
He does have himself
because he's the best free agent.
Decent future value of $795 plus the banking $1.32 a year is actually relatively good considering. So I think the market projects him to get a deal, whether it's with Kansas City or not. This is definitely his best situation, quarterback wise, but I don't know.
I'm not too keen on Juju going forward, and I'm not saying that he can't exceed this, but we don't know where he's going to end up. Hopefully, for his sake, it's in Kansas City. But even still, with the development of the younger guys, I feel like if he sticks around, I don't know if his numbers go up next year. They're going to probably go down a little bit. I mean, it's worth mentioning, too, in Kansas City, Mecole Hardman's a free agent, and so is Jerick McKinnon. So they have some decisions to make with a lot of the guys that they've been, counting on this
Very
season.
true,
So.
Very true. All right, let's skip over the next one because I don't feel like it's a conversation to be had. Let's go to a tight end. And who do we got? Dalton Schultz, same thing. Dalton Schultz is the guy I want to talk about real quick because he's a free agent to be. He's at 803, 13th ranked tight end, $4.08 in future value. He gets about 68 cents a year. To be honest, 46 catches, 488 yards, 3 touchdowns. There's a lot going on in Dallas right now in the tight end position. Peyton Hendershot, Jay Ferguson, my guy Sean McEwen, like they're all there. And I think they're all young enough to withstand tight end 1 potential. I think they could get there. So now for that reason, and I know there's a rapport between Dak and Dalton, but he is playing on the franchise tag. I foresee another franchise tag being placed on a Tony Pollard next year and not Dalton Schultz. Unfortunately, I think somebody's going to come in and grab this guy and outbid us. I think Dalton Schultz winds up on another team next year. I like the dude. I really do. I just don't see it happening.
Yeah, free agent tight ends typically, I wouldn't say they get paid, but it's on the up and up. You've seen the deals that guys like Austin Hooper have signed and CJ Uzoma from the Jets. Like, it's worth it for Dalton to go seek his contract in free agency. He just played under the franchise tag. Players hate that. I know they do. And honestly, he had a banged-up, injury-riddled season under the franchise tag. So I know that they could potentially maybe use it on him, but like you said, I think it makes more sense to pay the running back $12 million that you know is a really good player and you really can't afford to lose. Dalton Schultz, unfortunately, I agree, Dave. He might end up being somewhere else next year.
Yeah, unfortunately. And, you said that tight ends don't really get paid. Evan Ingram is our last guy we're going to talk about real quick. What a resurgence out of this guy. I mean, 92 targets was first of all, the biggest number that jumps out at me. 68 catches, 723 yards, and 4 touchdowns. Right now, if you look at the Mojo Market, Evan Ingram is the 8th highest tight end on the market. His price is $9.48. His future value is $3.72, and he banks around 93 cents a year. I think he's going to exceed some expectations here. I think Evan Ingram has found himself a home in Jacksonville. And I know Jacksonville's probably got some money to spend. I know they just spent it all on Christian Kirk or whatever. They have money. Evan Ingram, he did enough this year in one small sample size to show Dougie P and Trevor that this dude could be here to stay as the primo tight end. I think Evan Ingram gets a overpay here. I think there's going to be a massive deal given to Evan Ingram.
I got to see, man. I don't know. You want to know what's interesting about this more so than anything? I want to see what happens with Calvin Ridley's contract because he's there.
Oh, that's right.
Right? So,
but he's not a tight end. So,
I understand that, but he's probably due some money. I don't know if Calvin
he's on a rookie deal. Calvin Ridley.
How long do you think that rookie deal lasts?
Probably another 2 years.
Oh, really? How long do you think Calvin Ridley's been in the league?
He got suspended this year. He wasn't a rookie last year, so he's been in 3 years.
He was in his 3rd year last year, so this would have been his 4th. It would be in his 5th season next year. Yeah.
Huh. I still think he sticks around.
I'm not sure what the Calvin Ridley contract is like, but I remember Calvin Ridley being a potential trade candidate as he was suspended.
Yeah. Well, actually that kind of came out of left field to me. I don't know.
Yeah, of course, but he was.
But I'm saying, like you say, he was a trade candidate. I don't think so.
No, he was the contract. Yeah, it was on Atlanta. They trade away the their receivers all the time.
So Calvin Ridley is a free agent, unrestricted after next year. So they got to either pay him or use him for a year and see what's going on.
But he'll be there, and I understand he's not the tight end. But now when you have Zay Jones,
his number is $11 million.
You have Zay Jones, you have Christian Kirk. Now you have Calvin Ridley. We're talking about Gerald Everett, who is a talented pass catcher, but just doesn't have enough looks to go his way. I think he ends up in Jacksonville as well, but I definitely think his usage goes down a little bit if you insert a Calvin Ridley's 10, 12 targets a game into that offense.
Interesting. Well, it's going to go down in March when things go crazy on the Mojo Market because each and every one of these free agents we've been talking about all last week and a half are going to find themselves either in new homes or get re-signed or whatever, but each and every corresponding move will correspond to the Mojo Market. So that's why you have to kind of play your cards right now. Some of these guys have playoff opportunities, so you still want to stick with your guys. You want to go long. You want to use the multipliers on some of these superstars where sometimes it just doesn't seem like they're moving too much, but you can make them move. You can absolutely make them move. All right. That'll do it for today. Do us a favor. Head on over to the social medias, folks. You can head on over to Instagram, TikTok, and, of course, the Twitter, @Mojo, MOJO. Very easy to find us. Join the Discord as we share our portfolios. Some heavy hitters and some heavy action moving on Mojo over the last couple nights, rather. Within the last week, I feel like there's been, like, millions donated into, or not donated, but you know what I'm saying, invested into the Mojo Market. So, interesting to say the least. It'll be interesting going into week number 17 in the NFL. We start that on Thursday. Tomorrow, we're going to, unfortunately, put the axe on some more players and their teams because there's been more teams that have been eliminated, and now we have to figure out what you want to do with some of these players that are on these said eliminated teams in the last 2 weeks and going forward. So, for Dave Sturchio, Chris Gueci, A5, Anthony, behind the glass, this has been another episode of the Mojo Market Report. We'll see you guys back here on a hump day tomorrow.